Her nails dug into the palm of her hand. This was the third thing he'd said to her tonight. The first two had been, "Wear this Versace," and "Don't mix up the sapphires." The fishy smell of sturgeon caviar wafted over from the garden. Mrs. de Leon prodded her plate with her diamond-encrusted nails and asked, did the Rossi family acquire the Norwegian fishing grounds? All she could do was smile and say, "Marco handles those matters." No one knew, though, that the tip of her finger, pricked by a rose thorn that morning while arranging flowers, still bore the Band-Aid old Carlo had given her. And beneath that Band-Aid lay a half-finished sketch of a chiffon dress. Sofia stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of the Lake Como villa, her fingertips unconsciously brushing the rim of her champagne flute. The crystal glass reflected her carefully made-up profile. Mascara coated her lashes, each one distinct, like a porcelain doll in a showcase that never loses its makeup. Only a faint fine line at the corner of her eye betrayed the trace of her staying up until dawn, staring at her old sketchbook in the attic. "Mrs. Rossi, would you like a new drink?" The waiter asked for the third time, the ice bucket on his silver tray already half melted into water. "No, thank you." The curve of her smile was identical to what it had been 2 hours earlier. Even the angle at which her canine teeth showed was precise, as if measured. This was the 7th thing she'd said that night. The first 6 had all been cold, perfunctory responses like "thank you," "no," "thank you," and "all right." Her husband Marco's laughter drifted down from the study on the 2nd floor. The glass door couldn't block out the jargon of finance or the smell of cigars. She counted the ticks of the antique wall clock. By the time the second hand had circled 37 times, her toes inside her high heels had gone numb. Those custom Jimmy Choos had heels far too high. But Marco had insisted a lady of status must look the part, even if her feet were blistering inside them. Sofia. Marco suddenly appeared on the spiral staircase. A diamond lapel pin, gifted by the host of the dinner party, glinted on his suit collar. The pigeon's egg-sized diamond dazzled under the chandeliers. "Go talk to Mrs. de Leon. Her husband just secured the Asian market. We need his investment." She set down the champagne flute she hadn't touched, the bottom still warm from her fingertips. "All right, darling." As her skirt brushed the steps, she heard her husband lower his voice to his assistant. "Bring the contract to my room. Don't let those old men find out about our hidden shares in the Norwegian fishing grounds." In the garden, Mrs. de Leon was prodding sturgeon roe on her plate with a silver fork, holding a single egg aloft for ages without putting it in her mouth. "This caviar's gone fishy from sitting out too long," the socialite sniffed, her false eyelashes fluttering like butterfly wings. "I heard your family just bought those Norwegian fishing grounds? My husband says the roe from that sea is perfect for caviar. Marco handles those matters." Sofia stirred the steam from her cream of mushroom soup with a small silver spoon. The parsley flakes floating on top reminded her of the forest-themed embroidery from her graduation project, dark green linen tangled with white camellias. By now, those sketches were probably gathering dust in the attic, in a box labeled "My Little Forest" in her college handwriting. "I'm not sure about that." When the dessert course arrived, she slipped into the bathroom. The pearl earrings in her reflection trembled slightly with her breath, like 2 frozen tears. Her phone lit up with a text from Marco. "Dinner with the banker tomorrow night. With that Versace haute couture. Don't mix up the jewelry." The laughter of female guests drifted in through the door crack. "Mr. Rossi is such a model husband. At the auction last time, he bought his wife a full set of sapphire jewelry without blinking an eye. Please." He stared at the auction catalog longer than he looked at his wife. That sapphire set was just a gift to curry favor with Mrs. de Leon. A sudden splash of water from the faucet soaked her wrist. The cold made her shiver. Sofia watched the droplets slide down the lines of her veins and remembered the finger she'd pricked with a rose thorn that morning. Old Carlo had handed her a Band-Aid then, a look of unspoken concern in his wrinkles, and secretly slipped her a small packet of lemon candies. "Better than champagne for cutting through the richness," he'd said. When she returned to the hall, waiters were removing a melted ice sculpture. Its polar bear nose had collapsed into a puddle. Marco wrapped his arm around her waist. His palm was colder than the champagne flute, his fingertips still dusted with cigar ash. De Leon agreed to the investment. His lips brushed her earlobe, his breath mingling with the scent of whiskey and cigars. "Remind me to give her that Hermes scarf at next week's party, the one you were reluctant to use last time." The midnight wind, heavy with the dampness of a lake, swept into the back seat of the luxury car. Sofia rolled down the window, letting the wind ruffle her hair, styled rigidly with hairspray. As the strands brushed her cheeks, she thought of the days in college when she'd let the wind blow through her hair by the sea. In the blue glow of the dashboard, Marco's profile looked like a precisely calculated sculpture. Even the angle of his jawline exuded cold detachment. "Is the AC not right?" he suddenly spoke, his gaze still glued to the spreadsheet on his tablet. "Just a little stuffy." She stared at the plane trees speeding by outside, their shadows casting dappled patterns across her face, like the lines of the seashells she'd collected as a child on the Croatian coast. The car radio played midnight jazz. A saxophone wailed between the two silent figures. As they passed Milan Cathedral, Sofia quietly twisted her wedding ring on her left ring finger half a turn. It was too tight, already leaving a faint red indentation. The edge of the diamond caught in the crevice between her fingers, leaving a crescent-shaped red mark. When she twisted the ring back into place, her nail scraped the diamond with a faint sound, as if scratching through a layer of cold shell. Marco suddenly reached over to turn up the AC, slamming his tablet shut with a crack. De Leon's yacht party is set for next Saturday. Remember to prepare that Chanel suit, the black one. Don't wear the wrong thing. Last week you said wear the Dior cream color gown. She stared at her blurring reflection in the rearview mirror. Her curls had been tousled by the wind. You must have misremembered. Marco flicked through his schedule for the coming week on his tablet. The editor-in-chief of Vogue will be there this time. Black exudes more presence. It'll help me secure the spring cover. When the car pulled into the Lake Como Villa complex, the party lights by the pool were as bright as day, even dyeing the lake water blue. As Sofia stepped out, her high heel got stuck in the gap between cobblestones. Marco strode toward the crowd without looking back, not even sparing her a glance. Need a hand? A male voice with an Eastern European lilt came from the shadows. A young man in a white shirt knelt down, his fingertips gently gripping the heel, his movements as careful as if unwrapping a fragile gift. These cobblestones are the worst, he said with a smile, a hint of his canine tooth showing. My mom always used to say, wearing high heels on cobblestones is worse than walking barefoot on sand. She's a seamstress. She always applies fabric logic to feet. When he looked up, the pool's blue light glinted on his eyelashes, like two small fans dusted with dew. Sofia noticed the third button on his shirt was loose, hanging by a thread that swayed slightly with his movements, like a suspended star. His cuffs were dotted with strands of off-white fabric fiber, not the silk or suit material usually worn by models, but the kind of linen she'd used in college. Are you a new waiter? She asked, her fingertips unconsciously brushing the embroidery on her skirt. I'm crashing the pool party, the young man grinned, revealing both his canines. Luka Kovac, the new model De Leon, just signed. He nodded toward a photographer, adjusting his camera in the distance. Once they finish shooting the winter catalog, I can clock out. But this outfit's too tight, nowhere near as comfortable as the linen shirts my mom sews for me. Sofia suddenly thought of the tattered copy of Croatian coastlines in the attic box, still stuffed with the seashells she'd collected in college. One of those shells had a pattern identical to the fine line at the corner of Luca's, Mrs. Rossi. Mrs. De Leon came waving a champagne flute, spilling wine all the way. Come try this 1996 Dom Perignon. It's better than the bottle your husband gave me. Luca stepped back quickly, the hem of his shirt damp from the pool water clinging to his waist. Sofia noticed a birthmark on his lower back, shaped like a small island off the Adriatic coast. A shape she'd seen exactly replicated in the maps of Croatian coastlines that by midnight. Marco had finally torn himself away from business talks. Sofia sat on a wicker chair under a palm tree, counting the bubbles in her champagne flute. From full to empty, she never managed to count a single one. You should go network with the banker's wife. Marco loosened his tie. The gold tie clip glinted coldly in the moonlight. The engraved are dug into her palm. Her husband's flirting with your assistant. Sofia nodded toward the other side of the pool, where the banker's wife had her hand on Marco's assistant's shoulder. Do you want to stop them? Or is this part of your plan too? Marco frowned at his watch, his tone brimming with impatience. The driver will pick us up in an hour. As he turned, the tail of his suit knocked over her wine glass. Champagne spilled onto the wicker chair, leaving a wet stain as the champagne seeped into the gaps between the cobblestones. Sofia heard a soft click. Luca was crouching nearby with an old film camera, the lens still pointed at the spot where she'd been sitting. The light was perfect just now. He handed her a freshly printed Polaroid. In the photo, her profile was bathed in blue light, like Venus submerged at the bottom of the sea. The pool's blue glow on your hair. It looks like the auroras back home by the sea. That's not a prop. She was about to say a lady shouldn't talk to a freelance model, but Luca cut her off by handing her a bottle of mineral water. But people need to drink something real once in a while. He bit off the bottle cap with his teeth, the movement carrying a boyish charm. Champagne's too fake. Nothing beats mineral water for quenching thirst. When Sofia took the bottle, her fingertip brushed the callus on the base of his thumb. Not the kind models get from practicing catwalks, but the hard, rough callus of someone who'd held needles and thread for years. Just like the callus she'd gotten from staying up late, sewing embroidery in college. You have paint on your hand, Lucas suddenly said, pulling a lemon-scented wet wipe from his pocket. He gently wiped away the dried watercolor stain on her wrist. A faint blue, like the Croatian sea. She'd accidentally smudged it earlier in the bathroom. When she tried to wash away the indentation from her wedding ring, the crash of glass came from across the pool. Marco's assistant, drunk, had fallen into the water, prompting gales of laughter from the bankers. Sofia spotted her husband standing in the shadows, the glow of his phone screen illuminating his tight jawline as his fingertips tapped furiously. She had no idea what he was typing. They're so loud. Lucas suddenly pulled something from his shirt pocket and opened his palm. Inside lay a sugar-coated Croatian candy, shaped like a star, its wrapper printed with waves from the Adriatic Sea. Want a taste? My mom sent them. Apricot flavor, sweeter and more real than any dessert here. Sofia popped it in her mouth. The taste of apricots and honey exploded on her tongue, like the apricot tarts she'd eaten by the Croatian Sea in college. Marco's voice called her name from a distance, but she waited 10 heartbeats before responding. The first time that night, she hadn't obeyed immediately. I in the car on the way back. Marco's suit reeked of a mix of cigar smoke and perfume. Not her perfume. De Leon agreed to give us next spring's clothing order. He loosened his tie, his gold cufflinks glinting coldly in the dashboard's blue light. We're signing the contract at their headquarters next week. You're coming with me. Dress appropriately. Sofia stared at the plane trees speeding by outside, the sweetness of the candy still lingering on her tongue. When the car passed a 24-hour convenience store, she suddenly said, "Can we stop? I want to buy something." Marco frowned at his watch, his tone sharp with irritation. "Whatever you want, tell the housekeeper to, I want it now." Her voice was soft, but her fingers were clenched tightly in her skirt, her nails digging almost into her flesh. It was the first time she'd insisted on something in front of Marco. In front of the convenience store's freezer. Sofia scanned the colorful candy wrappers. Her gaze finally settled on a small basket by the counter. Inside were star-shaped candies identical to the one Luca had given her, their wave-patterned wrappers glinting faintly. As she reached for one, her wedding ring tapped against the glass counter with a clear clink, a sound that made her feel more grounded than the jingle of Marco's sapphire necklace. When she got back in the car, Marco was replying to emails, his fingers tapping furiously on the screen. "Got what you wanted?" he asked without looking up, not even glancing at the item in her hand. Sofia clutched the candy in her palm, the plastic wrapper crinkling softly. She looked out the window as the convenience store's red sign grew smaller in the rearview mirror, like a falling star, but warmer than the villa's chandeliers. "Since when do you eat this cheap candy?" Marco finally looked up from his phone, his brows furrowed deeply, his tone dripping with disdain. Sofia peeled off the wrapper slowly, sugar dust sticking to her fingertips. "I tried it at the party." She met Marco's eyes for the first time. She didn't look away. "Apricot flavor. Sweeter than your champagne." Marco's nostrils flared, his gaze turning sharp. "Did one of de Leon's models give it to you?" His fingers tapped against the leather seat, a rapid rhythm like an abacus. "I saw you talking by the pool. Do you know why freeloading models like him approach wealthy wives? It's always about money or connections." The air in the car turned icy. Sofia's throat felt tight, but she spoke anyway. "He just helped me get my shoe unstuck. And he understands what real means better than you do." Marco scoffed, his gold cufflinks dazzling in the light. "Real? Without the Rossi family's money, you couldn't even afford this cheap candy. Tell the housekeeper to get you more stable shoes tomorrow. And don't let me catch you talking to that sort of person again." Sofia stared out the window, the plane tree shadows slicing across her cheeks like they were cutting through her patience. Her phone vibrated in her bag, a multimedia message from an unknown number. It was the Polaroid from the pool. Next to her profile, bathed in blue light, Luca had drawn a small star with a pen. Below, it was a message, like the moonlight over the Adriatic. "Luca. P.S. My mom said if you like sewing clothes, she has an old friend who runs a tailor shop in Paris. Her work is amazing." Her fingertip hovered over the delete button for 3 seconds. Finally, she locked the screen and slipped the phone into her inner pocket, where she still kept the wrapper from Luca's candy. By the way, Marco suddenly turned to the driver. "Stop by the company first to pick up documents." He turned to Sofia, his tone non-negotiable. "You go home first. The stylist will be there at 9 tomorrow morning for a makeup trial. We need photos for the contract signing next week." The car pulled to a stop in front of Rossi Tower. As Marco got out, the tail of his suit knocked the candy wrapper off Sofia's lap. When she bent down to pick it up, she found a hotel key card wedged in the seat crack, its gold-embossed Lake Como Royal glinting faintly in the dark. The cardholder still had a strand of hair that wasn't hers, chestnut-colored, just like the banker's wife's. The housekeeper opened the door. Sofia walked barefoot up the marble steps, her wedding ring tapping against the handrail. Each tap like a blow to her last remaining hope for this home. On the dressing table in the master bedroom, a new jewelry box lay open. The sapphire necklace inside glowed like a pool of frozen water, cold and lifeless. She opened the wardrobe, her fingers brushing past rows of haute couture gowns. Their smooth fabric felt harsh against her palm. Finally, she stopped at the very back. Her old linen shirt from college, its cuffs still stained with indelible acrylic paint, a faint green from when she'd smudged it while painting forest embroidery. Like a spring that had never faded, her phone vibrated again. Luca had sent a photo. He was standing in front of the convenience store, holding the same star-shaped candies, with the store sign reflected in the glass door behind him. "Figured you'd like this flavor," the attached voice message said, with the sound of waves in the background. "There are apricot trees like this by the sea back home. When they bloom in spring, the whole street smells like apricots." "Oh," and the tailor in Paris said if you want to make clothes, she's ready anytime. She has the softest linen there. Sofia pressed the phone to her chest, her fingertips feeling the warmth of the screen. In the dressing mirror, she noticed one of her pearl earrings was gone. Only an empty earlobe remained. At T2 in the morning, Marco stumbled back in, reeking of whiskey. Sofia was staring at the moon outside, clutching the linen shirt. He tore off his tie. The gold tie clip bounced to the floor with a harsh clatter. "We signed a Leon's contract." He unbuttoned his shirt, revealing a bright magenta lipstick stain on his collarbone, blinding enough to hurt. "Next week, you'll go with his wife to pick out fabrics. Don't mess it up." Sofia stared at the lipstick stain, her voice soft but clear. "You have lipstick on your shirt. It's not my shade." Marco froze for a moment, his eyes flickering with guilt before he regained his composure. "One of the banker's secretaries spilled wine on me. An accident." He walked into the bathroom. The sound of running water soon drowned out his muffled phone call. "Erase all records of that hotel room. Don't let Sofia find out." The phone on the nightstand lit up. Luca had sent a video. A sunrise over the Croatian sea, golden sunlight spilling over the water, with stars made of seashells arranged on the rocks, exactly the shape of the candies. In the background, he was humming a Croatian folk song, mixed with the cries of seagulls, gentle like the sea breeze. The water stopped. Sofia hurried to lock her phone, but it slipped from her hand and fell to the carpet. Marco came out, drying his hair, his bathrobe tied loosely around his waist. The lipstick stain on his chest was still there. "What were you looking at?" He bent down to pick up the phone. The screen was still on, the video frozen on the seashell stars, the air turned to ice. Marco's knuckles whitened as he squeezed the phone so hard its case warped. "Is this that freeloader model?" His voice was like ice. "Have you forgotten you're Mrs. Rossi? The whole of Milan will see photos of Mrs. Rossi being intimate with a model." A blinding flash suddenly lit up the window, followed by the click of camera shutters. Noisy voices erupted downstairs. The housekeeper banged on the door, panicked. "Sir, reporters are blocking the entrance. They say they saw Mrs. Rossi being intimate with a strange man." Marco wrenched open the curtains. A dozen cameras were pointed at the bedroom window, flashing wildly. Under the lights, the veins on his forehead stood out clearly. "The contract we just signed with the Leon." He let go of the curtain, knocking over an antique table lamp as he turned. The lampshade shattered into pieces on the floor. "Do you know how much this will cost the company?" "At least €1 billion." Sofia stared at the broken lampshade, remembering the paint palette she'd knocked over in art school. Back then, her old professor had said, "Some stains never come out. Some mistakes, once made, can never be undone." Marco was already on the phone with his lawyer, his voice trembling with anger. "Draft the divorce papers immediately. Freeze all her accounts, including the joint card for that flower studio. I want her to get nothing." He glanced at Sofia, his eyes filled with disgust. "And throw out all her stupid design sketches. They're just taking up space." When the housekeeper came in with a cardboard box, Sofia was still wearing her party dress, its skirt stained with champagne, like an ugly flower. Marco stood at the door, dressed in a crisp suit like a judge in a courtroom, holding a document. "Your things." He held out the divorce papers, his pen pointing to the signature line. "Sign it, and the driver will take you to a hotel. Don't show your face to me again." The box contained a few changes of clothes and the linen shirt, folded neatly. On top of the shirt was the lemon candy old Carlo had slipped earlier. Sofia noticed her passport had been placed separately on top, its holder containing a photo of her from college, standing by the Croatian sea, holding a seashell. "My design sketches." Her voice shook. Marco scoffed, his tone dripping with contempt. "The staff already took care of them. Probably threw them in the trash. Who want those useless drawings?" Rain began to tap against the window, a rapid, sobbing rhythm. Sofia picked up the box. The remaining pearl earring fell from her ear, rolling to Marco's polished leather shoe. He bent down to pick it up, pinching it between his fingertips for a moment, then dropped it. The pearl bounced twice on the floor and rolled into the gap between the radiator. Gone forever, like the discarded hopes she'd held onto during this marriage. 10 o'clock tomorrow. The lawyer's office. The sound of Marco slamming the door was heavier than the bells of Milan Cathedral, shaking her eardrums. The elevator mirror showed Sofia's pale face, Her makeup smudged, her dress crumpled, like a discarded doll. She felt the uneaten, star-shaped candy in her pocket. Its plastic wrapper was soaked with cold sweat, but still held a faint sweetness in the lobby. Reporters swarmed her like sharks smelling blood, their microphones almost poking her in the face. "Mrs. Rossi, what's your relationship with that model? Is Mr. Marco divorcing you?" Amid the flashing lights, she saw that the car waiting outside wasn't the family's Mercedes, but an unfamiliar taxi. The driver rolled down the window, revealing a kind face. Heading to Milan Central Hotel, a bouquet of white hyacinths lay on the back seat, damp with night rain, their petals still dotted with water droplets. These flowers, Sofia's fingers brushed the wet petals, cold but soft. The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror, his eyes gentle. "A gentleman paid for your fare in advance. He said you might need a place to stay, and that hyacinths mean new beginnings." He paused, then added, "The gentleman said his name is Luca. He also asked me to pass on a message. I'll keep the seashell necklace safe for you. Whenever you want to see the sea, just find me." The windshield wipers swept arcs of water across the glass. Sofia buried her face in the white hyacinths, breathing in the scent of sea salt mixed with lemon. Exactly the smell of Luca's shirt, exactly the smell of the Croatian coast. "Can we go to Buenos Flores instead?" she suddenly said, her voice trembling with tears but firm. The linen shirt in the box brushed her elbow. The paint stain on its cuff looked like dried blood, but also like a hope that had never faded. The florist's window glowed with warm yellow light, like a small sun in the rainy night. Old Carlo was trimming rose stems, the snip-snip of his scissors sharp in the rain. When he saw Sofia push open the door, he dropped the scissors onto the wooden floor with a thud. "My God!" The old man's hands shook as he picked up the scissors, his eyes crinkling with worry. "I saw on the news. Those reporters are animals." Sofia's mascara had run into black circles under her eyes, like two black butterflies. The hem of her dress was muddy. She looked nothing like a wealthy socialite. She held up her cracked phone, the headline of an entertainment news article glowing harshly. "Millionaire dream shattered. Rossi heir catches wife in intimacy scandal with model." Old Carlo locked the door behind her, then fetched a checkered blanket from the back room. The same one she'd often wrapped herself in during college, still smelling faintly of lavender. "Dry your hair first. Don't catch a cold." When he spotted the linen shirt in the box, his eyes lit up. "So you brought a change of clothes? I sewed that shirt for you, remember? The cuff had a hole, so I stitched a little camellia on it with white thread. That's all I have." Sofia's voice was softer than the rain. She touched the small camellia on the shirt. "I didn't even get to burn my sketchbooks." Marco threw them out. The old man suddenly knelt down and pulled a dusty box from under the display shelf. A yellowed note was taped to it, written in her handwriting, "Sofia's Little Forest. I found this during a cleanup last year. I was going to sell it as scrap paper, but when I saw the drawings inside, I couldn't bear to." Old Carlo opened the box. Inside were stacks of yellowed sketchbooks, still labeled with the Milan Academy of Arts logo. "Look, all your design sketches are here. Not a single one is damaged." Sofia's fingertip touched the top sketchbook. The charcoal marks showed through the paper. It was the first design she'd ever drawn for a chiffon dress. As she flipped it open, a small swatch of chiffon fell out. The lines of its hem looked like wind-tousled waves, its edge still stained with a faint green acrylic paint, the same color as the stain on her shirt. "Remember?" Old Carlo handed her a cup of hot cocoa, its rim dusted with cocoa powder, just like the smudges she'd left on her sketchbooks back then. "You always said you wanted to embroider white camellias on a dress. You said it would make the dress smell like spring." The small apartment upstairs was exactly as she'd left it when she rented it in college. The desk was still the old wooden one, with her old sewing box on top, its thimble now tarnished black. As old Carlo made up the bed, a few postcards fell out. One was a photo of the Croatian Blue Grotto, with a message scrawled on the back in faded ink. "Graduation trip plan, go see the sea with Mom. Tomorrow." The old man hesitated, then held out a key with a small seashell charm. "My niece Emma runs a fashion studio. She's looking for an intern. She studied design too. You two should get along. It's a small studio, but at least it'll let you do what you love." Sofia stared at her crystal-encrusted nails. Now, they were nervously picking at the edge of a sketchbook, hands that had worn jewelry for 5 years, almost forgetting how to hold a needle and thread. "I haven't held a needle in 5 years, her voice shook. "I'm afraid I'll mess up." "But you never stopped designing." Old Carlo pointed to the sticky notes taped to the wall, sketches of dresses she'd doodled every time she'd come to buy flowers, chiffon gowns, embroidered coats, star-patterned shirts. "Last week, you were still talking about making ombre chiffon, saying it would look like auroras in the sunlight. See, your ideas were always there. You just forgot them for a while." When the rain died down, Sofia dug out her old sewing tools from the bottom of the box. The thimble was tarnished black, but she managed to slip it onto her ring finger. The white indentation from her wedding ring stood out sharply against the metal. She picked up a needle and thread, fumbling several times before threading it. The first stitch pricked her fingertip. A bead of blood seeped out and dropped onto the chiffon swatch, like a tiny red flower. The next morning, Emma, old Carlo's niece, burst into the florist's shop in 10-centimeter heels, her voice as bright as a bell. "Uncle, you said there's an intern?" She suddenly froze, staring at Sofia, who was sewing chiffon. "Mrs. Rossi? What are you doing here?" Sofia was pinning the chiffon fabric in place. At the sound of Emma's voice, her hand slipped and the pin pricked her index finger. A bead of blood soaked into the fabric, spreading into a light brown stain on the beige chiffon, like sand by the sea. "Just call me Sofia." She put her finger in her mouth, the taste of iron spreading on her tongue, but feeling strangely grounded. "I'm not Mrs. Rossi anymore. I'm just an intern who wants to learn how to make clothes again." Emma picked up the design sketch from the floor, her eyes widening. "This waistline, it's brilliant." She suddenly knelt down, pointing to a detail on the sketch. "Wouldn't boning make it better? The skirt's curve would be more natural, like the shape of ocean waves you mentioned." The fluorescent lights in the basement studio hummed, like the cicadas of summer when she was a child. Sofia knelt on the floor, adjusting the dress form. Her knees were dotted with red marks from pins, but she felt no pain. After Emma shot down the color scheme for the third time, Sofia finally set her coffee cup down firmly on the table, her voice steady with resolve. "Dark lining doesn't work for chiffon." She held up the fabric and held it to the window. Sunlight filtered through, casting faint patterns on the wall. "Look at the layers when the light hits it. Light lining will make the chiffon look more translucent, like auroras under ice. That's the effect I want." Emma fell silent, staring at the light patterns on the wall for a long time. Then she nodded vigorously. "Oh my God, this is the aurora under ice you were talking about? It's stunning. Why didn't I think of that earlier?" During lunch, Sofia snuck back to the florist's shop to help old Carlo arrange flowers. He was wrapping a bridal bouquet with white camellias, her favorite flower. When he saw her fingers covered in Band-Aids, he sighed. "Emma's a workaholic. Don't take it personally. She's just desperate to make something good. Easier than dealing with Marco's parties." Sofia smiled bitterly as she helped fasten the ribbon, her fingers skillfully tying a bow, the only useful thing she'd learned from 5 years of ladies' etiquette. "At least here, I don't have to pretend to like champagne. I don't have to wear uncomfortable high heels." At dusk, the door to the basement studio pushed open, and a breeze carrying the smell of the sea swept in. Lucas stood in the doorway, holding a brown paper bag. His bangs were dripping with rain, his shirt soaked through and clinging to his body. "The convenience store clerk said you were here." He held up the bag, his smile boyish. "Brought you star candies. And my mom sent Croatian chili sauce. It's amazing with bread." Sofia noticed he had the same kind of Band-Aid on his left hand, dotted with fabric fibers. "Did you get hurt during a shoot?" she asked, her fingertip brushing his Band-Aid. "It was cold." "Nah." Lucas scratched his head, looking a little embarrassed. "I was sewing a shirt for my mom this morning. Pricked my finger by accident." He picked up the skirt she was sewing, his fingers gently brushing the stitches. "This stitching, it's just like how my mom mends fishing nets, strong and pretty." He suddenly bit off a loose thread with his teeth, the movement so natural it seemed he'd done it 1,000 times. "We always finish stitches like that back home. It doesn't come loose." Emma's scream came from the stairs. "Luca, what are you doing here? That's the final project for the prep class students. Don't touch it." In her panic, Sofia knocked over the box of pins. The shiny pinheads scattered across the floor, like stars fallen to earth. Luca dropped to one knee to help her pick them up. The birthmark on the back of his neck peeked out from his collar, clearly visible in the light. Sofia's fingertip hovered in the air, wanting to touch it but daring not to, until she heard him whisper, "Paparazzi are lurking at the alley entrance. I saw them just now. You leave through the back door later. I'll distract them." "You shouldn't have come." She pricked her thumb with a pin, pressing too hard. A bead of blood dropped onto Luca's hand. "Marco's lawyers are definitely looking for you. They want you to admit we had an affair so I'll get nothing in the divorce." Luca pulled out a wet wipe and gently pressed it to her wound. The lemon scent mixed with the smell of blood, but it felt reassuring. "I refused," he said, his voice soft but firm. "They offered me money to say we'd known each other for a long time. I said no. You're not that kind of person. I won't ruin your reputation." He pulled a plane ticket from his pocket and tucked it into her sewing machine drawer. "I'm flying to Paris tomorrow for a show. I'll check out my mom's friend's tailor shop while I'm there. Ask about fabrics for you. You need time. Don't rush." His canine tooth glinted in the light. "Like this dress, you have to stitch it one thread at a time. Rushing won't help." At midnight, Sofia looked up from the sewing machine, her neck stiff with fatigue. Raindrops drifted past the small basement window. The outline of Milan Cathedral loomed in the night, like a silent guardian. As she rolled her stiff neck, she noticed a note under the thermos old Carlo had left on the work table. His handwriting was messy but warm. "I saved a spot in the window. When you finish your first piece, we'll hang it in the most visible place. Months later, the spotlights at the Torrent Design Awards made Sofia's eyes ache. She was wearing a white chiffon dress she designed herself, embroidered with stars, and a white camellia pin to her collar, made by Old Carlo. In the sea of people below, she saw Emma waving her staff ID frantically. Old Carlo's checkered scarf stood out in the VIP section. He was holding that copy of Croatian coastlines, the winning work, Ice and Snow Collection, by designer Sofia Monti. The host's voice echoed through the venue, clearly pronouncing her maiden name. She heard gasps around her, suddenly realizing she'd forgotten to revert to her married name, but felt no regret. The boning in the white dress dug in her ribs, but it felt more secure than any haute couture she'd ever worn. As she stepped up to the podium, she almost tripped over her skirt, until a pair of hands steadied her elbow, carrying the familiar scent of the sea. Luca was wearing a neat suit, his hair styled neatly, but his boyish charm still showed. "Watch the steps," he whispered, his canine tooth glinting under the spotlights. "You look just like the moonlight over the Adriatic tonight. Beautiful." The third button on his suit was still loose, hanging by a thread, just like the first time they'd met. Applause surged like a tide, shaking her eardrums. As Sofia held up the trophy, her sleeve slipped down, revealing a star-shaped scar on her wrist, the mark of a burn from when she'd been sewing months earlier, now her medal. A commotion broke out in the crowd below. Marco was pushing through, holding a blue velvet jewelry box. The pigeon's egg diamond inside refracted the spotlights, dazzlingly bright. Sofia, Marco's custom-made shoes stopped in the middle of the red carpet. His tie clip was shaped like a camellia, exactly the design from her graduation project, though its plating was chipped. "The board agreed to launch your personal studio. We'll give you all the resources, just come back. We can be like we were before." His hand shook slightly as he opened the jewelry box. The inside of the diamond rings band was still engraved with their wedding date. A mocking joke. The spotlights flashed like a storm. Reporters thrust their microphones almost into her face. Marco took the opportunity to grab her left hand. The cold ring band brushed the old indentation on her finger, sending a sharp pain through her. Sofia pulled her hand back abruptly. The trophy base hit a microphone stand with a harsh hum. She looked toward Old Carlo, who was using the tip of his scissors to cut the plastic wrapping off a bouquet of white camellias, her favorite flower. "Thank you to the judges. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Old Carlo." Her voice sounded slightly distorted through the microphone, but it was firm. "This collection was born in the basement of Buena's florist. In every night, I stayed up sewing. In every moment, I refused to give up." She pointed to the corner, where Emma suddenly held up an old work uniform covered in star-shaped patches. The first piece she'd made after restarting, covered in pinholes and paint stains. "This is my first work. It taught me that true design isn't about diamonds on haute couture. It's about the sincerity hidden in every stitch." Marco's smile froze, his face turning pale. As he lowered his hand to adjust his cuff, Sofia saw a red indentation on his wrist from the anniversary watch she'd rejected the night before. He was still wearing it, like a joke. About the brand's ownership, the editor-in-chief of Vogue suddenly interjected, her eyes full of anticipation. "Ms. Monti, will you collaborate with Rossi Group next?" Marco jumped in, his voice eager. "Rossi Group will fully support my wife's design career. We'll work together." Sofia dug her nails into her palm, cutting him off. "I will not collaborate with Rossi Group." Her voice rang clearly through the venue. "My brand is called Ice and Snow Atelier. Its address is 17 Plane Tree Lane in Milan's Old Town. That's the address of Buena's florist. It's the home Old Carlo gave me." Cheers erupted from the crowd. Emma jumped up, cheering. Luca had quietly stepped back to the edge of the media area, clutching a wilted white hyacinth, but he was smiling. "Ms. Monti." A reporter from ELLE stopped her as she stepped down, shoving a microphone in front of her. "Which brand will you collaborate with next? Will you cast Mr. Luca as your model?" Marco's cough came from behind her, carrying the familiar smell of whiskey, but it no longer scared her. Sofia took the bouquet of white camellias from Old Carlo. The petals brushed the pinpricks on her hand, like the lemon tea he'd left by her sewing machine on countless late nights. Warm and reassuring. "I'll be collaborating with a tailor shop in Paris," she said with a smile, her eyes meeting Luca's. "They have the softest linen, the best tailors, and the smell of the sea I love." As for the model, she looked at Luca, her smile gentle. "I already have the perfect person. He can not only walk the runway, he can sew buttons and make apricot-flavored candies." Marco's fountain pen fell to the floor, rolling to Luca's feet. Luca knelt down to pick it up, the callus on his finger brushing the pen. He handed it to Sofia, his tone teasing. "Use it for the termination letter. Don't waste his gift." In the silence that fell over the venue, the third button on Luca's suit suddenly popped off, rolling to Marco's polished shoe. The metal surface reflected Marco's ashen face. Sofia knelt down, her chiffon skirt spreading like an aurora. She gently picked up the button and slipped it into her pocket, her trophy, a symbol of freedom. Some things, she placed the diamond ring Marco had given her back in the velvet box and pushed it toward him, are like misplaced stitches. You have to unpick them to start over. Some relationships, once broken, can never be fixed. It's better to let go early. Under the spotlights, the scar on her hand aligned perfectly with the star embroidery on her chiffon dress, like a mark of fate that Marco's Adam's apple bobbed. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but said nothing. He just clutched the velvet box tightly, his knuckles white. Ain't tea that moment. The bells of Milan Cathedral drifted through the venue's windows, clear and solemn. Sofia felt something hard under the camellia bouquet. Old Carlo had secretly sewn the florist's key into the ribbon. The seashell charm on the key still smelled faintly of lavender. Lucas stepped forward slightly. The hyacinth brushed her earlobe as he whispered, "The tailor shop in Paris is ready. I brought the seashell necklace too. When you're done here, we'll go see the auroras over the Adriatic." Okay. His breath carried the saltiness of the Adriatic Sea, the sweetness of star candies, and the taste of freedom she'd waited 5 years for. Sofia nodded, her smile full of relief and resolve. She knew that from this moment on, she was no longer the Mrs. Rossi trapped in a gilded cage. She was Sofia Monti, the designer, the girl who could sew stars into stitches and embroider auroras on chiffon. Her future would have no champagne or diamonds, but it would have the softness of linen, the sweetness of star candies, and the sea breeze of the Adriatic. That was the life she'd always wanted.